we got word that the New Yorker had also turned down his story, but Saul was too busy to be checked by bad news. He was reflecting deeply on what should come next, and the weather wasn't being cooperative. Now, I ought to explain that Saul is extremely weather-sensitive. High-pressure, azure skies, those of late May and early June, have always turned him on. But in that spring of '88, the gloomy rain fell day after day. Saul would light a fire in the kitchen, drink his coffee, and then slosh out to the studio through the black-fly-infested, soppy grass. He wasn't writing, he told me. He was going there to brood. And he added, "That's how I've always done things. You separate yourself from editors, lawyers, publishers. You set down your burdens, and you brood." Our Vermont friends and neighbors, Herb and Libby Hillman, looking to lift our sagging spirits, invited us to dinner. Over Libby's homemade bread and roast chicken, the conversation turned once again to the Jewish question, and Saul introduced an idea we had been debating since his Philadelphia lecture. Should the Jews feel shame over the Holocaust? Is there a particular disgrace in being victimized? I was ferociously opposed to this suggestion. As we awaited dessert, we let go of the argument. The smell of chocolate announced that the drowsy end of the evening was upon us. Serious subjects gave way to gags, jokes, old chestnuts. But as we were getting ready to leave, our host, a retired chemist specializing in house paints, began to tell the story of one of his colleagues. This man, now dying of lung cancer after a lifetime of exposure to toxins, had been a European refugee in the early 40s. I have to admit, while I was scraping the last of the chocolate from my plate, my mind was already on the rain and the slippery ride home. I was not attending as closely as I might have been. May 24th. The first fine day of the season. When Saul came back from the studio for lunch, he had that shining-eyed look that made me anticipate his announcement. "I'm on to something new. I don't want to talk about it just yet." Next day, as we were driving into Brattleboro for our weekly supplies, he elaborated. "I haven't found a shape for the new story yet, but it's based on what Herb told us over dinner." Did I remember the details? No, but fortunately, Saul did. A refugee is imprisoned by the Italian fascists, but prior to his imprisonment, having become aware that his arrest is imminent, he is written overseas to the Broadway impresario Billy Rose on the advice of a friend. In the story, as Saul eventually wrote it, the hero makes no such appeal to Billy Rose, and, in fact, has never even heard of him. A mysterious plan is concocted while he waits in his prison cell. He learns that his door will be left open at a certain hour on a certain night. Someone will meet him in the street behind the prison and indicate that he has been sent by Billy Rose. There will be money and instructions about which city to go to until the next contact appears. All happens as planned, and with the aid of these emissaries, he escapes to the States. There, he is denied entry because of the quotas, but makes it to Cuba. Years later, when he is back in the United States, he tries to contact Billy Rose and to thank him in person, but it seems Rose, who has helped a lot of people, will have nothing to do with the refugees he has saved, perhaps fearing that they will lean on him or mooch from him indefinitely. The rescued man is quite shaken by the cold shoulder he gets from Broadway Billy. Such were the bare bones of the story, as sketched by Saul that day on the way to town. A story no longer about Herb's friend, but already about a character. Harry Fonstein. Surviving Harry, as Saul would later call him, borrowing from John Berryman's dream song, dedicated to Saul, about surviving Henry. Saul, it turned out, knew quite a lot about Billy Rose. For in his Greenwich Village days he had known Bernie Wolfe, who was Rose's ghostwriter. A wolf-like character might become the intermediary between Rose and the protagonist. Wolfe had been a very bright, very savvy and strange man who took an unusual interest in New York people and their obscure motivations. Such a man would be sympathetic to the Fonstein.